Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live. I am your host, Zena, Keita, joined by Warriors reporter Dalton Johnson. The Warriors' road streak came to an end at the hands of the Cleveland Cavaliers. They lost 115 to 104 and were kept to just 36% from the field. It was clear there were some offensive struggles. There were some other struggles throughout the game that we're definitely going to touch on. But Dalton, what were your initial takeaways from the game?
Look, the Warriors went cold in Cleveland. Size overcame the skill of the Warriors. Their fatigue showed. And it was one of those games where, again, you're trying to search for anything, any extra push. The Warriors had a couple of those, but not for 4 full quarters.
And when you look at the scoring box score, the surge that they needed from an offensive perspective just wasn't there. Of course, Steph Curry had 28 points doing his Steph Curry thing. Draymond Green followed up with that 18 points, but when you go down the roster, it was a little too late. Kuminga did have 15 points to end the game, but they all were scored in the second half. 12 of them in the fourth quarter. We're also going to talk about that. But before we get into that, Steph Curry is at the podium. Would love to see what he had to say about tonight's game.
It was a big deal just when you're trying to get over the hump and, you know, create a presence in the game. Easy shots, letting them get to the free throw line too, on top of that. They always say, like, styles make fights, and from OKC to Cleveland, that's a big difference in the way that they approach the game, and their game plan won. So good learning lesson for us. Understanding the details of how you need to beat certain teams, making those adjustments. We just didn't do it.
What do you think the spark that Trace maybe come back from San
They bring great energy. They approach the game the right way. That's why we love having them around, and you can throw them in there and they look like they belong. So it's nice to see them play with confidence, play with energy, give us a huge bump. And I'm sure they're only going to get more confident as they go. And, you know, staying ready is a hard thing in the league for guys like them. You don't know if you're going to play 30 seconds, a minute, or 8 minutes, or not play, like all in between. You got to just stay locked in mentally, and that's the challenge for them, and they're doing a great job. I mean, their lineup, they have 2 bigs that try to control the paint, put pressure on you, offensive rebounds. Make your rotations on defense a little different. OKC was obviously mostly 5 out, Chet out there, and trying to just keep everything in front of you. Tonight, the physicality of the game, but also just the kind of minor nuances of how they try to create shots. Obviously, Donovan's going to be, and Darius are, you know, pretty ball dominant. They try to create, but they put so much pressure on you, even if they're not, you know, getting crazy lobs all the time. The threat of it is there, and then you're worried about both. So it's, like I said, it's just a good lesson for us defensively on understanding how you can slow them down, especially on the road.
Steph, when I saw you last at your ready to go forward, you told me it's always a special feeling coming back. Obviously, in Akron, it's your hometown, but does the feeling ever get old of coming here and playing in Cleveland?
I mean, I love it just for all the reasons. The history we have here in this building, and the connection to Akron, and even coming to Firestone this summer and the whole deal. So just adding to it, but definitely I wouldn't say it's something you look forward to, but it's like one of those kind of nostalgic vibes that you get, and you appreciate the energy here.
What does it do for the offense when he's scoring like that?
It's just him being aggressive. He has a lot of confidence in the shot. He's always had it. It's just a matter of him taking them, and it gives us such good life because they have to take away stuff, or they try to take away stuff that are kind of our pet plays. And when he's able to space, knock down shots, it just gives us a huge boost, gets him involved in the game offensively early and often. I'm sure it's going to continue.
You guys are going to see James Wiseman again tomorrow night in Detroit. What's your thoughts on that and the situation he finds himself in?
I haven't talked to him, so I don't know where his head's at, but he's a great dude. You know, was a great teammate when he was with us. Look forward to, crossing paths with him, talking to him, showing him love. I know he's not playing much, but it's the challenge of, that he's facing in terms of, understanding how he can continue to get better and, force them to play him. Like that's the challenge. So knowing him and when I'm talking to him, I know he'll, have extreme confidence in himself to figure it out, even if it's not on the timeline that he wants right now.
The circumstances with him were with it, but you look back on that and, not like necessarily what if, but kind of just wish it had gone a little differently. Obviously, his path could have been less smooth.
I mean, you could say that about a lot of situations with teammates that, whether it was with us or when they went somewhere else, you wish that, things happen quicker, sooner, or better outcomes. But his story is still developing. Like nobody's putting a pin in that right now. It's he's a young dude, yet super talented. He works hard. So, I'm confident he'll be able to figure it out. Just a matter of when. And that's really all you can focus on. That's not really looking back at how it went with us or whatnot. It's just knowing he has the mental fortitude, I think, and the work ethic to figure it out.
Who's Jerry with you right now compared to last season?
It helps coming into training camp. I think he's healthier than he was coming off the procedure he had last year and the rehab stint that he went through. And then you just understand we know him so well. He knows our system and his role and how he can impact the game on both ends. And so when you can start out a season like that, just mentally, it's helpful for just the clarity of what he's supposed to do out there. But I think he looks great and he's been putting the time in off the court to prepare his body, which is not a lot of people see what he goes through to do that, and it's impressive.
Kind words Steph Curry had to have about his teammates, and that's kind of been the sentiment across the team. Steve Kerr just had a lot of great things to say about particularly the bench, the rookies coming in, and that's what I want to focus on right now. GSW bench has been the topic of the Warriors, the game changers for what the Warriors are able to do this year. However, this was the first game that we have seen them stifled. Their offense was stagnated. It was bottled up. Where were they struggling the most?
A little bit everywhere. I mean, it was just a bad night for the bench, especially from the start. You think about this road trip, you need to have that spark. And the bench has been that for so long. The early part of the season, obviously, but the early portion of the season, the bench has been such a spark, such a strong part. But in the first half, they pretty much had nothing. They scored 6 points off the bench in the first half. Gary Payton II was the only player to make a shot in the entire first half. The bench was 2 of 20 in the first half. And that second quarter is where things really started to unravel a little bit, where you saw the leakage in the Warriors in that second quarter, only 15 points. Their lowest for a quarter this entire season so far. So you saw players come on strong later in the game, but when you need that spark early on, the Warriors bench just didn't have it. I mean, again, you look at the second unit that has been so good with Chris Paul, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, as well as Gary Payton II and Dario Saric. They've been such a good unit together this season, but they only played 3.5 minutes tonight, and they were outscored 7-0. So just a tough night overall for the bench.
When you think about the fact that they did have to take OKC to 141-139 to win that game on Friday night. And the bench was key in that. You think about Dario Saric and Jonathan Kuminga having season highs, and then Chris Paul having a season high in assists. They had a lot of production, and I think that probably worked against them, because usually the bench is supposed to be what you need to be able to get your fatigue for, to address your fatigue for your starters. But they were out there working too. And so you've got an entire roster of players that are going on the road again for their fourth city at this point on their road trip. And they're tired. I mean, I think fatigue was the number one thing that was plastered all over this game.
Yeah, it was one of those games where it's going to happen throughout the entirety of a season, right? So I don't think it's something that you really have to dive into too deep and really have too many concerns with the bench, because the unit has gelled so well that why try to overreact because of one game like that? If that makes sense, I think that there's parts that you can look at and go, okay, if this isn't waiting until the fourth quarter for it to happen, it's a major positive for the Warriors, of course, right? But I think overall, it's a game that you can't look at too deep when it comes to an 82-game season. Sure. Not too many worries as far as the bench overall goes. There's some little things that you need to figure out. I mean, Chris Paul's his shooting needs to come around eventually. You know, that feels like an outlier that he's missing this many shots. Sure. Of course, the assist to turnover ratio has been great, and that's what you need first out of him, right? But the shooting, it's going to come around a little bit. Jonathan Kuminga, you can't wait until the fourth quarter when you're really trying to come back to get it going. They need his points big time, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more as far as finding him. Where does he fit in that order of scores for the Warriors? So overall, the concerns, I wouldn't raise the red flags by any means. I don't think that this is a red alarm game for the Warriors in their bench. I think it's part of a really tough stretch on the schedule early on, and you got to be able to move forward and kind of turn the page quickly on the first night of a back-to-back.
Well, how would you, if you're Steve Kerr and you're trying to assess how to play these back-to-backs throughout the rest of the season, and you know that we've heard Steve Kerr already say he plans on playing these veterans to start the game against the Pistons tomorrow. So usually on a back-to-back, you can rest your veterans. You win that first one, hopefully, and you rest your veterans, and then you play your bench. But knowing that your bench wasn't able to show up for you today, and you've got to go back to your veterans again, and again, outwork them and make them play again and really condition their bodies even more so, how would you kind of balance that, having the bench being able to play and make up for the time that the Warriors veterans should be sitting on and recovering, I guess you could say?
Well, first you rely on the core, right, of Steph Curry, of Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, the guys who have been there and done that under Steve Kerr in this system, who have faced kind of these tough games, and you got to be able to recover quickly, of course, right? So you rely on them first. But then to be able to get Trace Jackson-Davis, Brandon Podziemski come back after about one day with Santa Cruz, people were kind of wondering, hey, where are they? They really need them. And they show up and they do exactly what you need out of them. They did provide that spark early on. They did get the rebounds that we talked about even in pregame as far as playing that we over me style of basketball. So really positive stuff out of them where, of course, you rely on the smarts, the experience of your veterans, and hope that Jonathan Kuminga can have a quicker start, that Moses Moody can get going, that your rookies can continue what they've shown early on, because you do need those fresh legs against a younger team like the Detroit Pistons. That's
what it was. It was just, it took too long for them to get going. Now, you're not raising the red flags just yet on that. That's fair, perfectly fair. There is something I'm raising the red flags on, and that is the struggles in the paint. I mean, it was a problem to find a bucket. And when you look at the way that they were getting pummeled in the paint by the Cavaliers, it wasn't so much that, of course, yes, Evan Mobley was doing his thing, Jared Allen was doing their thing, but Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, they were just getting inside as they wanted, and the Warriors were living and dying by the three. I think this is a thing that the Warriors have to address, their inability to finish inside, or they're used to, they want to go and attack the paint and kick it out every time. And there's opportunities where they can put the ball up, but they're not.
That's where you rely on the athleticism of a Jonathan Kuminga, of an Andrew Wiggins. Those are the two that need to be able to set the tone in there. They don't have this big 7-foot center who's going to go down there and throw bows around, and throw down a big time dunk. Kevon Looney, of course, he's a great rebounder, a great battler on the boards. All of that is awesome to see, and he's so valuable for the Warriors, but they don't have that kind of player. And fans can yell, you need to get bigger, go out and make the trade. But the simple fact is this is the roster, and the people who have the skills to get downhill, to get to the paint, they need to. That is Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
That is Jonathan Kuminga. You know, Steph Curry, he's become such a better finisher, but he's also 6'3". He's Steph Curry. We know his game overall. I would love to see the evolution of Klay Thompson get to the block, and doesn't need to be the athleticism that a Wiggins or Kuminga has, but use his size, use his length for some of those turnaround jumpers as well. So yeah, I mean, look, overall, we knew that Jared Allen was going to be able to get down there. We knew what Evan Mobley was going to do, but it's the guards with the quickness of a Darius Garland, with the athleticism of Donovan Mitchell, Karis LeVert coming off the bench and doing what he does, right? So I think matchup-wise, it was tough for the Warriors. This is an athletic team, a big team as well. And again, you need to be able to get your nose in there, stick it in there, get towards that rim. Because at the very least, I want them to force the refs to make a decision, force them to take that whistle out and let the Warriors get to the free throw line, make the game easier for you when you're part of this tough road stretch, right? So instead of making it, hey, you need to kick it out and get to a three, that's going to wear you down a little bit. Get to the free throw line, get your breath, slow down. Just make it easier on a tough part of the schedule.
And that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking ball movement would be able to help you find those openings to get inside the paint and be able to finish closer to the basket. I thought this was an interesting stat. The average shot distance for this game for Cleveland was about 4 feet from the basket, double that for the Golden State Warriors. And then when you think about 30% of Cleveland's shots were from that 4 feet, within 4 feet of the basket, 30% of their shots, and they were 78% from that. I mean, yeah, when you're that close to the basket, probably just going to go in. But yeah, I'm excited to see what a TJD, a Trace Jackson Davis, could do to help that statistic, because when he came in, there was an improvement on being able to see a pick and roll and someone rolls to the basket, catch in traffic, and be able to go up strong. So that was really exciting to see for sure. So I want to make sure that we aren't skipping over the fact, though, that the Warriors were shooting well from three. I mean, at the end, 16 of 41, 39% from the field. Do you think it's okay that they continue to shoot from that distance if they're shooting 39% or higher?
I mean, look, we know who the Warriors are, right?
I mean, yeah.
This is their recipe. This is the Warriors of the past. It's the Warriors of the present. You know, they're going to be a three-point shooting team. They're going to shoot the ball from distance, from the outside.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's just kind of knowing the moment and feeling it in the moment, you know, of hey, this is where our legs are. We are an older team. We need to be able to get down low. We need to be able to get to the free throw line, things like that, right? So it's knowing your personnel that they are going to be a three-point shooting team, no doubt about it. But then it leads to transition buckets. The Cavs had 16 more fast break points. It wasn't just the fact that the Cavs had 34 more points in the paint. It was the other things as well. And it's the fact that in the first half, 24 points in the paint for the Cavs, only 4 for the Warriors. So again, to me, it's setting the tone early and then often.
Yes, 58-24 for the Warriors at points in the paint. We'll be back. We're going to keep talking about what the Warriors can do to bounce back from this loss against the Detroit Pistons. Don't go anywhere. It's Dubs Talk Live. I did not hear that we need to tease the break, so I apologize about that. Hello, friends on YouTube. All right, guys, we are regrouping as a family. All right? I saw a loss. There's things to learn with every loss, people. All right? Failure is only a lesson learned.
Oh, look at that.
Okay? I'm just saying.
That sounds like something that you would wake up to in the morning on an app or
You
something.
got to do your affirmations and all the above, folks, okay? So let's look through and see what our friends are saying here in our family. You you guys are direct hitters. I don't
think it'll be as kind as we
underestimate
are.
that. Right. Lots of
What we are.
shock.
Yeah.
Lots of shock. When you think about where the Cavaliers are in the East, but I don't know. I mean, people are saying like the Cavaliers aren't that good. They did finish 4th, right? They were
a good team.
They were
This is a
4th seeded
good
last
team.
year in the playoffs, and then they went in the offseason and picked up, I think it was Niang and
Yeah, they went Max Strus
and Max
Niang,
Strus.
good
I mean, those are
veterans.
solid veterans that know how to win, right? And are capable of winning and capable of adding what they can. And George Niang, I mean, he was phenomenal from a defensive perspective.
Yeah. It's a really good Cavaliers defense, too. I mean,
Yeah.
something that we probably haven't emphasized enough. This is a really good Cavaliers
They
defense.
were phenomenal on
active
defense.
defense.
Exactly. And if you really compare the tape of just the Warriors were getting lost on defense in comparison to what the Cavaliers look like. Their rotations were just so much crisper than the Warriors were. And I give the Cavaliers a lot of credit for their ability to stay in front of our Warriors guards. All right, folks, welcome back to Dubs Talk Live. Dalton Johnson and I are breaking down the Warriors' loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers, 115-104. First road loss of the year. They are now 4-1 on the road. Still a really great record, but there's something that the Warriors need to address if they want to be able to win more road games and more games all throughout this season. And that is taking a little bit of load off of the shoulders of Stephen Curry. When you look at the Warriors' breakdown of who's scoring in the secondary or tertiary position, right? The next top scorer within this role. I'm looking at tonight's game, Draymond Green, 18 points. The first time against the Kings, Klay Thompson had 18 points. Houston, Klay Thompson, 19 points. Pelicans, Moody and Kuminga couldn't play. They had Trace Jackson-Davis, CP3 and Moody had 13 points. Steph had 42, remember. Look at that load difference, right? And then second time they played Sac, Steph only had 21 points. Saric, 15 points was the next top scorer. And then in OKC, Dario Saric, of course, had 20 points. JK with 19 points. It is clear that there is not a very consistent and selected secondary scorer right now for the Warriors. It's Steph Curry and then whoever else is kind of hot. What are your thoughts about the Warriors needing to be able to identify that secondary score and really lean into that?
Klay Thompson's going to be the secondary scorer. It's how it pretty much has always been with the Splash Brothers. But you look at last year's roster, or even the championship roster from the 21-22 season, and you just need a little bit more scoring power, it feels like, right? A little bit more firepower in general. You know, you might look at, when they won 73 games, when they won their first championship together, and it pretty much was Steph, Klay as the main scorers, and then a handful of others that were contributing. You look at Maurice Spates, you look at Sean Livingston, Draymond Green, a handful of contributors, but this is a scoring age in basketball now. This is modern day NBA, and it makes you wonder, do you need that big-time third scorer? I think, again, Chris Paul is really, really showing his value in this trade. But Jordan Poole is someone who did average over 20 points per game and looked like he could be that next secondary scorer, maybe even leap a Klay Thompson. Andrew Wiggins right now hasn't been getting his offense going. He's only averaging 11.7 points per game. He's shooting 20% from three-point range. So it's something that I'm really going to watch throughout the season is Klay enough as a secondary scorer, and is a handful of players enough for a third scorer, or do you really need Wiggins to get to that 17, 18, 19 points per game? Because right now, it's just not there.
You know who I think is capable of filling in that role? Kuminga.
Oh, he can, yeah. They need him to be 12 to 16 points per game, for sure.
1,000%.
Yes.
And you can tell that he has the confidence to be able to do that as well for this year. I want to continue to see him grow in that position because he needs to be able to do that consistently without turnovers. And so we'll see what he'll be able to do and being able to plug that hole for the Warriors. But Wiggins got to step up. Kuminga's got to step up. And, of course, the bench overall cannot have a slide when you go to their reserve unit. Well, those are the lessons and the things that we have to pick up on for this game. But the Warriors have another back-to-back tomorrow against the Detroit Pistons. So we'll see what they'll learn for tomorrow's game when we come back. Right. Hello, friends. All righty, let's see where we're at. Okay, the real Elise, I'm with you. All these flick shot layups are not going to cut it. Like, dunk the ball.
Dunk the ball. Okay,
Dunk the ball.
Yeah.
I agree with them.
Yeah.
I agree, because when you think about above the rim players,
Mm-hmm.
right? You just talked about we don't have brawlers. We don't have people
Mm-hmm.
that are going down there and, putting elbows up and moving people. That's fine. You can be an Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley isn't a brawler. He's an above the rim player.
Right.
And when you think about a Kuminga and you think about a TJD, those players are capable. I mean, it's crazy that our 2 lob plays have been for Gary Payton, who is 6'2". Okay.
Yeah, he's 6'2", but he plays like he's 10 foot.
I get that. I'm not even trying to I
I
don't
know
want to
that. I know
discount
that.
him, but it's crazy to think that that's who your main lob threat is on the Warriors bench. No. Or on the Warriors roster. So I think that I agree with you in that they need to dunk the ball and go up strong. And when I look at the fouls that Draymond has got, he hasn't even jumped off the ground really. He's just been going up strong. I need everyone that can go up strong, is not the age of Draymond Green, going up above the rim and dunking it.
Yeah, just get a shoulder into a chest, things like
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
Go 2-hand strong first. We don't need to be underhand. It doesn't need to be fading away. Get the shoulder in the chest and make things happen down low. Assert your dominance down there. That's what I want to see overall from a handful of guys.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm sorry, I was talking to our producer and but yeah, put a body on somebody. Go into them strong. It is a physical game, and so make them call the call. Make them call. Alrighty, here was the final score for the Phoenix Suns versus the Detroit Pistons, 120-106. But if you look by the play-by-play, it wasn't a close game that kind of got extended in the last few minutes. They were down about 16 points throughout the entirety of that last quarter. And so the Pistons lost at home. They're not going anywhere. They can rest and relax and get rejuvenated at home. And the Warriors will go into their home to go up against them. And we talked about how much fatigue is a big thing when you're talking about these back-to-backs and throughout the course of the game. And this team is young. And this team likes to run. What can you expect from the Warriors trying to bounce back?
A lot of big, fast, really good athletes on this Detroit Pistons team, looking for the rookies to continue to give them that quick spark whenever they get their opportunities, looking for Jonathan Kuminga to have a much earlier impact, not waiting for 14 second half points. Want to see a good first half surge from him. So that's really what I'm going to keep my eyes on in Detroit.
Well, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on that Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham duo. Also, Jaden Ivey. Who knows if, and of course, our former champion and friend, James Wiseman, see if he'll be able to get some time against the Warriors. I know he'll be happy to see his old squad. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in on Dubs Talk Live. Again, Warriors go down against the Cleveland Cavaliers, 115-104. Zena, Keita, Dalton Johnson. Appreciate you tuning in on a Sunday. We'll be back tomorrow night. Again, Warriors take on the Pistons. All righty then. YouTube family. Yeah, there's conversation around Wiseman. And he is benched right now in Detroit. So most likely he's not going to see some time, but you never know. Monty Williams might have a little connection with, wanting to have him play against his old squad.
For them too.
Right, exactly. So their starters need some time as well. So very, very intrigued as to what's going to happen against that team. But that the Warriors don't want to go 0-2 against this back-to-back. They want to be able to pick up at least one. And when you think about the fact that they're also gearing up to play against the Denver Nuggets, they do have to be smart about that balance.
Yeah, I think you have to be smart in the balance of the minutes, but you also just want to have a good feeling after this win, right? You don't want to go 0-2 and a back-to-back, have that one, have a little bit in between time and then go to Denver, which we know how tough that's going to be. Every time that they play a back-to-back this year, and Klay Thompson plays in both games, I'm going to watch him on the second night because, again, he had a much stronger first half than second half tonight, where Steph was able to go 14 first half points, 14 second half points. Klay, 10 first half points, only 5 second half points. So The second out of back-to-back, we know Steve Kerr saying that everyone's going to play right now. I really want to see how Klay Thompson plays, especially the second half on the second night of a back-to-back.
This is a game I think that we're really going to see the benefit of a Chris Paul coming onto this team and being able to spend a lot of time. I mean, when you look at tonight, just 24 minutes played, only 2 assists really were his big contributions. No turnovers, because that's his thing. But only 5 points. You know, he didn't have a big night tonight. He went 2 of 10 from the floor. I'm imagining that if Stephen Curry definitely is going to start and there's an opportunity to rest him at all, that Chris Paul will be able to step up and really lead the team in his absence.
Yeah, I think whenever things are kind of going downhill or going bad, that's where a Chris Paul, a 19-year veteran, can kind of stay to the pace a little bit and go, hey, we might feel like we're getting rushed right now. Everything's getting tough. We don't want to lose 2 games in a row, second night of a back-to-back. Slow down, slow the pace down a little bit, and let's find the right shot instead of forcing a shot. That's where I think, again, Chris Paul's smarts, his basketball IQ can really help on the second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah, and we also didn't really get a lot of time to discuss this, but I just want to give the quick spotlight on the rookies, right? Draymond Green called for the rookies to come back, and if you watched the game and you saw them on the bench, they were that energy that Draymond was talking about. Every call, specifically in the first half, those 2 were up, they were energetic, they were lively, and then you saw them be ready to play in the second half, and you really, really appreciated what they were able to provide for the team, which was a spark, a little bit of an energy pull, even if it was just being happy that they are performing well. I saw that coming out of the Warriors team when they saw them performing well.
That's a skill in its own right. It's not easy to always stay ready. It's not easy to go from being the man in college to being on the bench and being positive for your teammates. So right now, they've done everything that Steve Kerr and their Warriors teammates have asked from them, and they're only expected to continue that going forward.
Yeah. Well, Warriors family, our YouTube family, we appreciate you just hanging out, showing up. Of course, the Warriors did not get the win today, but that is okay. They'll be back on the road tomorrow against the Detroit Pistons. That will be probably a very exciting game as well. You know, the Warriors like to keep it lively for the folks. So appreciate you guys tuning in again. Zena, Keita, Dalton, Johnson. Please enjoy the rest